and they were no longer their own, and they could not do what was normal and natural anymore. They were now in the realm of the supernatural in order to do the will of God. And that's exactly the way that the Lord works with us. So many times we are commissioned to do things that's beyond our natural strength, that's beyond our natural understanding, beyond our intelligence, beyond our education, and all of these things. And we feel the touch of God driving us to do something that we're not even qualified to do. So it is in our lives in doing the work of God, doing that supernatural, but that supernatural touch from the Lord. I never shall forget when God called me to the nation of Thailand to go as a missionary. I was pastoring a little church of about 100 people out in the mountains of West Virginia, a few miles, some 50 or 60 miles from where I am now pastoring. You talking about mountains. We were really in rugged, steep mountains, crooked roads. I remember going from my house to my father's house, which was only 45 miles. And I counted the curves once. 973 curves in 45 miles. Some of them were so sharp that you would see the back end of a car that looked exactly like your car and had the same license plate. And you discover it was your own plates that you was looking at going around those curves. Amen. But it was in this little town of 5,000 people that God called me to the nation of Thailand. I had never hardly been anywhere. I had never been in a foreign country except in Canada, and Canada is not very foreign. That might offend Canadians for me to say that, I hope not. But what I mean by it, you see, when I go to Canada now, it seems so much like home that I'm not aware that I'm across the border into another nation. I just realize I'm in maybe a little different custom, a little different attitude, but it really is like being in another state rather than another nation. But in those days when I traveled, years ago, I was just a country boy, just not a farmer, but out in the rural areas of West Virginia, a hillbilly, if you please, and a little experience. And I went into Canada for 3 months. And I was so glad to come back across the border that when I got down from my car on the American side, I got down on my hands and knees and kissed the ground. That seems so ridiculous and so foolish to me now, but I was just a hillbilly, and that's all you can expect. Anyhow, I had not traveled much, and the Foreign Missionary Board decided to pass me, and the General Board passed me, and the District Board passed me, and I was on my way to the nation of Thailand. We were leaving from San Francisco on the Steel Executive freighter ship. It was going halfway around the world. When you go to Thailand, you can go either direction from my home. You can go east or west, and it's exactly the same distance. It's as far as you can go without coming back. And it was a long ways. I had never been on a ship before in all my life. The very first day I pulled the fire alarm and just caused so much havoc on that ship. Anyhow, the first day we were out, we sailed some 500 miles in 24 hours, and oh, what a storm we were in. That ship would just rise up like it was going to turn up on its end. And then it would come down on the waves, and when it did, it would go completely under the water, and the rudder would come up out of the ocean, and that ship would just shake like it was going to come apart. Oh, what a time. What a time. Please don't put me on any more ships. God bless all of you sailors, but you can have them all. I don't want any of them. I don't even want a free cruise to Bermuda. I don't want any ships. That was my Alpha and Omega on ships. But anyhow, we were traveling, And we had seen nothing but water, 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 water for 3 solid weeks. And we started seeing mountains sticking up out of the water that were the mountains of the Philippines. And so we were getting excited that we were coming into a nation after 3 weeks of water from San Francisco. We first pulled into Subic Bay, which is in fact a naval base for the United States, or it was in those days. And let me tell you, I'm not the adventurous hero type. I was the worst tourist in all the earth. I really didn't even want to get off the ship, but Sister Cole wanted to get off and look about in Subic Bay. And we were walking down the streets, and I was so overwhelmed by those foreign people. They were Okinawans, but they looked like Japanese to me. And I was so overwhelmed by them, I heard my name being called. My wife was saying, "Billy, Billy, Billy." And I was so mesmerized by all of this, I was standing right in the middle of the street in total shock, about to get run over. But anyhow, we didn't stay there very long. We got on the ship and took a short journey down to the bay in Manila and to the Manila harbor. And when we arrived there, we realized we had missionaries in Thailand, or in the Philippines. I was so inexperienced, I was so green, that it had never occurred to me to write to the missionaries and tell them to watch for our ship. That didn't even cross my mind. But my mother had thought of it. Anyhow, we arrived there about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And of course, my wife wanted to get down from the ship and go into the city a little bit. And we got off of the ship, and the Filipino people, whom I love so very much now, and I love to be with them, but quite frankly, they scared me half to death back in those days. I was terrified of those people. They were so little and tiny and brown and all of that stuff. And I wasn't used to that. And they surrounded us, wanting to sell us black market money and everything else. I told Shirley, I said, let's get back on the ship. We didn't even go anywhere. We got back on the ship. But long about 7, 8 o'clock that evening, the missionaries showed up. I was never so glad to see anybody in all of my life. I was thrilled to see them. They got permission from the captain for us to go to their home, which was in Angeles, Pampanga. And we were going to go to their home just an hour's drive or so away. And we were so excited to see each other that we talked the entire night long till daylight. And then we took a little sleep. And the captain had told us, no problem, American citizen, you can go for 24 hours even without a visa. Just go and check back with us tomorrow. Be sure and check back with us tomorrow. And so we took a little sleep in the morning, and then we went out and they showed us all these little carvings. I never seen such beautiful carvings in all my life. Well, we didn't have very much money. We were going to Thailand, believe it or not, with $700. That's all we had. And I left it on the ship because I sure didn't want to spend it. We had so little, and I had taken $10 with me. Well, I got so carried away that I spent $9 of that $10 for a souvenir. And so we got back to the house, and we decided, well, the captain said, call the ship and check with them. And when I called,